Welcome to Lucha Rewatch. I do believe this is episode 5. We just got done watching Lucha Underground episodes 17 through 20. And really, these 4 episodes felt like a hybrid of Lucha Underground and AAA because a few of these episodes heavily featured Alberto El Patron and Tejano.
Yes, they were heavily featured here. I would also personally argue that this batch was probably the most significant that we've consumed yet because we had some big championship matches, one big exclamation point on one feud, and at one time we thought it was the end. Turns out it was really the beginning between Phoenix and Mil Muertes. So a lot of big matches and some
That's what
significant
it
moments.
was. That's what it really comes down to. Like these 4 episodes had amazing, super intense main events. I mean, just gonna kind of run down them real quick. Episode 17's main event was Patron versus Tejano. Obviously a huge match because it carries a lot of weight from AAA. Episode 18, the main event was, in my opinion, the best cage match in the last year or two. King Cuerno versus Johnny Mundo. 19 was Grave Consequences, and then 20, the main event. It was a double main event, really, because we had 2 championship matches. This was a really heavy, just match heavy segment of 4 episodes of Lucha Underground.
Yeah, you saw a lot of stories really come to a head, I think, in these 4 episodes, at least in terms of, the matches presented. I
Yep.
thought this was a very enjoyable batch, and I just can't wait to get right into it and talk about it with you.
All right, well, John, normally when we do Twitwell, we start things out with Heat of the Night, so I'm just going to start things out really simply. Did you have any major problems with any of these 4 episodes, or the 4 episodes as a whole?
Not really any major problems. No, I wouldn't say so. I feel like everything here, kind of served a purpose. That's kind of the beauty of Lucha Underground. I remember I said it a lot throughout the course of the first season on Twitwell Reviews. There's no wasted motion with this show. And if you're quick to write something off as well, that was pointless. You might want to recheck your premises when you go further into the season because it usually comes back in a big way. And I've always admired that about this show. So no complaints from me.
Yeah, and see, the funny thing is, it's funny that you say that because even though I wouldn't actually classify it if we were doing Twitwell as a Heat of the Night, I do have a little bit of a nitpick about these episodes.
Okay.
The amount of emphasis that they put on Conan's cane blows my mind.
Yeah.
They literally gave him, I think it was 2 full vignettes just to hype up the creation of this tempered steel cane of his. And then he ends up using it to set up Prince Puma to win his championship match against Cage.
Do you remember how excited we were in the first viewing in our
Yeah,
Twitwell
because we
reviews?
saw like all those guys in the shadows and we're like, oh god, Conan's gonna come out with a new faction and it's gonna be crazy. And no, it was just a cane. That's it.
And it's funny, dude, that this is all happening at the time that it is because recently I went back and I watched some old like LAX content on YouTube
Yeah.
because I was actually a fan of that tag team in TNA. I thought they were great, and they'd even be more appropriate now, but I digress. And I loved him in that faction because he was so biting in his criticisms and his promos had a lot of fire. So if he was leading like another faction, I'd be like, man, that'd be so awesome. But the idea that it's a Kane, I get what you're saying. And see, that's the difference because when I say that there's no wasted motion, I usually mean from a storytelling perspective. And
And
I
that's still
guess,
true because
yeah,
even though I'm not super happy about how much emphasis they put on the cane, they still ended up paying it off.
they did. They did, and that's the thing. So while I think they keep that intact, I think the best criticism, at least on my end, would be maybe it just wasn't the best story to tell at all.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing is that like I understand that you guys are amazing at telling stories and this was about as well done as it could have been, but even having been as well done as it could have been, it just felt super unnecessary.
Well, Ashton, this whole story with the cane comes back to that adage I've heard you say quite a few times on Twitwell, and forgive me because I'm not going to be able to do it verbatim, but I'll paraphrase.
Just
Eh,
because you think you want to try and figure out how to do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should.
Exactly. And I think Lucha Underground thought to themselves, like, we can do this without really thinking, well, is this a good use of Conan? Is this a good use of Puma? Because to me, with that main event, not to get too into it because it has its own time, but with the whole Kane finish, I think in a way I like it, right? Because it shows that Puma is still growing into his own as a champion, and I think they have to make Conan have some kind of utility, some kind of function to this reign. But I feel like that was solely in that mentoring capacity. As soon as that function becomes physical, I feel like that diminishes Puma's natural gifts.
Yeah.
Like he can't hang in there with a guy. And we know that's a
That's
complete
great for
farce.
Cage, though.
Yeah, that's great for Cage
The
because
crappy thing is that Cage lost himself the match.
exactly, and that's just it. Like the way the match was booked was Cage pretty much had the thing won, but oh no, a cane to the skull. That's pretty much the equivalent of the arrow to the knee for Cage, I guess, and he just goes down.
And it wasn't even
Uh,
really to the skull; it was more to the neck.
More to the neck. Well, regardless, like it stunned him, it took him down,
It took him
and then
down long enough for Puma, who was struggling to even stand, to climb the ropes and hit the 630.
exactly, and get the follow up cover and get the win. So
Yeah.
like I think that's a worthwhile nitpick, man. Now that you and I have really dissected it and talked it out, I can definitely see where you're coming from because even seeing all that, and I remember I'm thinking, oh, is Conan going to turn on Puma and go with Cage because he sees what a monster Cage is? He just needs, and that's was kind of my reasoning too. Like we see that Cage is this unstoppable force, but he just needs this intellect to kind of accompany it. And Conan has always been kind of portrayed that way, at least in
Yeah.
Lucha Underground. So I'm thinking,
Unless you ask Vampiro.
unless you ask Vampiro, who we saw how that all turned out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was an interesting story. Maybe just not the best story for Lucha Underground to tell, given the
Yeah.
resources they had at
I
hand.
kind of feel bad for the writers too, because that's like, man, that's like asking somebody to write a storyline to get an object over rather than getting the people over.
Yeah, because I mean, knowing Conan, but see, this is why again I feel like we shouldn't have listened to Vampiro, and I take full blame for that because I'm like, oh, Vampiro's like the voice and everything.
I thought
Because
that I was the one that said that he was the voice of reason.
were
Because you
you?
were the one that was complaining about how he's always angry at Conan and always talking him down, and I was just like, yeah, man, but he's the voice of reason.
Well, like, but I felt like I said at one point in 112, maybe it was you that Vampiro like because something happened in Lucha Underground, and he kind of called it. I said maybe this just shows that Vampiro's kind of like the narrator for the audience. We should be listening
Yeah,
more.
I mean, that specific line was from you, but I was
Yeah,
definitely the first person to try and act like Vampiro was the good guy.
right. Yeah, well, yeah. So you were saying Vampiro was the good guy. I was saying that he was trying to tell us something, and it turns out like we're both kind of right,
He's a
but not.
goddamn Sith Lord, John. We weren't
Yeah.
right at all.
So there you go. But yeah, I got really nothing else to say about that. But I do agree with you. Like, it is a shame when you get an object over because I feel like, knowing Conan's personality, what we've seen of him in the past, not just in Lucha Underground, I thought he was going to bring these guys in. Maybe he was, going to dispose of Puma. I thought at first because Puma couldn't protect him. And he's like, all right, well, I guess you're not the investment I thought you were. I brought these guys in, and it just turns out to be a reinforced Kane. So what are you going to do?
Freaking Van Palpatine over here.
Van Palpatine. I'm already dead. God.
All right, let's get into talking about the actual show.
I don't know if I can, but we'll try.
Okay, so episode 17 starts with Patron demanding a match with Tejano. Of course, Cueto is all, he doesn't want to put on a match that he would rather promote for a week or two and suggests Ricky Mandel and Famous B, and then even goes up as high as to say Son of Havoc. And no, Patron insists on Tejano, so obviously he ends up getting his way because Alberto El Patron can do no wrong. You know what? That's another thing, too. I think it's entirely the WWE's fault for programming me to think this way, but I cannot buy into Alberto El Patron as a babyface. I just can't do it.
I can't either. Even in Lucha Underground, which I'll admit, like they had better writing for him as a babyface in WWE. It doesn't really come down to the writing, and I want to thank Lucha Underground for teaching me that. It really does come down to Patron. I just feel like there's something innately about him. It's the same way with the Bellas when they try being babyfaces. There's something innate in certain characters, and I'm like, no, I just have
Alexa
this natural.
Bliss, too.
Alexa Bliss, yeah. I just have this natural disdain for you. And of course,
And
for
it's
me,
not even a disdain. Like, it's not like I hate him. I just can't force myself to really get behind him and cheer for him.
yeah, like again, the one time that you and I were really rallying behind Patron was his
Was
whole
when he
feud with
was a
Sheamus.
heel!
Yeah, when he was a heel and like feuding with Sheamus in WWE, because I felt
Yeah.
like he was doing amazing work.
Well, not only that, but Sheamus was also, despite being a babyface, a huge dick.
douchebag champion. Oh yeah, but
You
yeah,
stole
like
Alberto's car, man.
this whole segment is like, I want Tejana. No, you whiny little bitch bag. You'll take the match that I give you. Now go get ready for it. But no, it's like, oh, I want Tejano. I'm the AAA champion. Well, fine,
I
fine.
want
Enjoy.
Tejano. How about Famous B? He clears the desk. Tejano. How about Hijo del Havoc? No, Tejano. Okay, dude, you're like a really stubborn negotiator, so I guess I'm just gonna have to give you what you want, or else you're probably gonna drop kick my face off.
Yeah, you know what? I'm really hoping he enjoyed the taste of that privilege because I would inevitably enjoy the taste of that glass. But we'll get to that later. God.
Oh, that's in like I think that's in like the late 20s too. So we've got at least another 2 episodes waiting.
It is going to be so worth it. So worth it.
That doesn't help either. That like they put the guy that's supposed to be a babyface that we can't get behind against the guy that we love 10 times more when he's a heel.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
All right. So up next we had Mil Muertes versus Phoenix. Katrina shows up. Mil wins, and then we had another kind of weird tease where Mil wants her to do the kiss of death, and she doesn't, and Phoenix ends up taking him out, and I think she and Phoenix make out again or something like that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I know, dude. This is like, if I'm not mistaken, this is the really weird scene. Like, when we watched it the first time, I even said on Twitter, like, what the fuck? Because Phoenix knocks him out with the stone.
Yeah.
And then Katrina does the long lick, like, from the belly button up to, like, the mouth.
Getting all that sweat up in her mouth.
And a little TwitWow factoid for all of our loyal followers. This was the episode that I first made the reference about Katrina being a succubus. This is the first time I made that connection. And yeah, watching it again, I'm like, yeah, she stole all that life force. Like, you're just like slurping it all up. Like,
oh,
damn.
Jesus. Apparently life force is now equal to sweat.
Yeah. Oh, God. I felt bad for Phoenix because, like, don't get me wrong. Katrina's hot, but like you just got done licking that, and now you're putting that in my mouth, and just
oh god, yeah. I'm just glad she didn't make out with anybody after she licked Pimpanella's face, because that amount of makeup had to be awful to lick.
Oh god, yeah,
that's way later in the season, but I can't get that out of my head because she licks his face, and he's got all that makeup on.
I didn't think it was possible, but I'm cringing the second time around more than I did the first time. But yeah, this is a crazy segment, and I gotta say, like I've said it before, I'll say it again when we get to episode 18. This is my feud of season 1. I loved what these guys did here.
Muertes and Phoenix tore the house down every time they fought.
Oh my! And guys, I think that says a lot coming from me because everybody knows like I'm the Mundo Mark, so maybe everybody thought that Puma Mundo would be a lock for my feud of season 1. No way!
I don't think that would even be in my top 3 feuds of season 1, to be honest.
Right, like I love those guys to death, make no mistake about it. But what these guys did in Phoenix, Muertes, and yeah, Katrina too. I want to lump her in there. Yeah. Was absolutely amazing. Oh my god!
I feel like my top 3 feuds would be Muertes versus Phoenix, obviously.
Right.
But then I would also toss in Drago versus Aerostar because of the 5-match series, obviously, that continues in this set. But then I would also just kind of add in Pentagon versus the roster.
Yeah.
So that was a thing. But yeah, the Muertes Phoenix thing, yeah, like you said, hardcore, just awkward turtle, anxious aardvark, tight butthole, all of the above.
All happening simultaneously.
Yeah.
All right. So what came after this, brother?
Up next was the first of amazing Conan video packages that led to next to nothing. That was this amazing frickin' Evil Ways song that I think, didn't TNA use that as AJ Styles' theme song?
That's correct.
Yeah. It's an amazing song. But then the text said, appear weak when you're strong. In the midst of chaos, there's also opportunity. And then we saw Conan, Revenge is Coming. So, amazing video package, which led to very little.
Yeah, really, that's the best review you can give for both of us, because I really have nothing to add. I loved the whole look of it. I loved how they presented it.
The vibe that these video packages put out was so phenomenal.
And maybe in a weird way, we can take something positive from it, because to me, when you can create this kind of vibe and atmosphere and just epicness for a Kane, you can't go wrong. You can do it with anything. I'm
I
convinced.
know, but like it just makes me wonder, like, what if they would have used this to hype somebody up, like an actual person?
Oh my God. The hype would have been so real, but we'll always have
Like,
Matanza.
what if they? Well, I was gonna say, what if they would have used these video packages to hype up Cage instead of just him beating up a bunch of frickin' nobodies on the street?
Yeah, that's true. Oh my God. Yeah. That would have been crazy.
Yeah,
Damn.
yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's amazing because Lucha Underground produces amazing content, but in this case, the recipient of the content wasn't worthwhile.
Exactly.
All right, so then we get into Dario Cueto's office with Ivelisse. She thinks she could be the number one contender. Cueto disagrees. He's not impressed by her one win over Angelico, which happened to also be because of Son of Havoc. So he sets up her versus Angelico with Son of Havoc as the special guest referee. That match, again, lots of very tight butthole going on in that match, but we'll get to it eventually. So up next, we had Alberto El Patron stepping up to Puma in Puma's locker room. Talks about how he's going to need to take his aggression out on Cage, but then he also reminds him that if he does come out as champion, Alberto El Patron is coming for that title.
Of course he is.
I
Again,
was just going to say that exact same thing.
yeah, again, reveling in the privilege.
The privilege, yeah.
You know, it's not like other people, Johnny Mundo, have been putting in the time, trying to build this thing from ground up.
No,
and it's not
of
like they
course.
get to brag about, being a champion everywhere in North America. Shut your face hole. Oh, Puma, watch my match tonight. You might learn something. Yeah, because the inaugural, Lucha Underground champion needs to learn something from your bitch ass. Yeah. Sorry.
Our hatred for Alberto El Patron knows no bounds.
It really doesn't. It'll never be over. It'll be over when I'm dead.
Okay, so up next we got our second match of the night. This was a continuation of a storyline that started in our last episode of Lucha Rewatch. Big Rick versus Sexy Star, where the winner gets a 3-on-1 handicap elimination match versus the crew, because that's what the winner gets. I mean, what does the loser get to live? Like that sounds like a way better prize than winning this match.
Well, dude, I mean, it's so funny you say that because, and I'm not gonna jump the gun. I just want to make a passing comment. You pretty much get the same lesson with the Drago Aerostar Best of 5 series.
Yeah, you're better off losing.
Yeah, Cueto's a dickbag. Like,
or even the 2 10-man matches that led up to the singles match for Grave Cons or for Aztec Warfare. You were better off just getting eliminated from one of the 10-man matches, and then you have an opportunity to come out 19th.
Yeah.
And a 0% chance of needing to come out first.
Unique opportunity, my ass.
No, they're unique opportunities, but if you don't take advantage of the opportunities, you are boned.
Yeah, exactly. Big Rick versus Sexy Star.
You know what? It's funny because some people might want to complain that made Sexy Star look weak, but to me, it doesn't matter the gender. If somebody Sexy Star's size goes against somebody Big Rick's size, this match played out exactly how it should have.
And I think that's an excellent point. It's funny because I still don't know exactly how to feel about this match, even after watching it a second time. But I feel like given what you just said, Ashton, and given the story that was at the forefront here, everything was logical. It's not like any logical sins were committed. Like if I would have a critique, maybe it would be with presentation, but even then, I wouldn't even really know what to pick apart. Like Rick is this big hulking guy, and Sexy Star, while resourceful and resilient, it's only going to get you so far with an.
This was basically Lucha Underground's equivalent of a babyface Brock Lesnar versus Spike Dudley.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Right. And Big Rick.
And even Spike Dudley is bigger than Sexy Star. Like Sexy Star is 5'3".
Right.
Spike Dudley's 5'8".
Well, there you go.
So it's just, I enjoy Sexy Star's work, but when the size advantage gets to be this drastic, it makes sense that Big Rick would be able to basically just control everything.
And hey, dude, you know something? Better this than doing the kind of booking that you hate, and I know I hate, and a lot of other people hate, where it would be like a Rey Mysterio, Great Khali kind of thing.
Oh God, yes, I hate that so much.
So I'll give big ups to Lucha Underground for not trying to, call bullshit, with her trying to like rally and all that stuff. So yeah, the more I think about it, you're absolutely right. This is
You
the
know,
perfect outcome.
I never realized it before, but Rey Mysterio is actually shorter than Spike Dudley.
Yeah, yeah.
That kind of blows my mind.
And what works here is because Big Rick really didn't hurt Sexy Star, he just kind of pinned her down
Right.
for the 3 count.
And that kind of keeps him as a babyface just long enough for him to get paid by Davari.
Yeah, yeah. And for Sexy Star, it still keeps her relevant in the story because she hasn't been taken out where she no longer has any skin in the game because
Yeah.
after the match, the crew goes on the assault on Big Rick, but Sexy Star, tries taking him out. Of course, she ends up eating that flapjack lung blower.
The Shatter Machine.
The shatter machine.
Oh no, but seriously though, it's not called that in Lucha Underground. Don't do that.
Oh, okay. Um, so then they're like, oh, take Big Rick's other eye out because, total blindness. That's clearly an answer. Not running when you have a chance to live. Big Rick powers
He can't
through.
fight if he can't see.
Damn it, I was trying to not laugh. But yeah, Big Rick imposes his will, takes out everybody, and Sexy Star recuperates, and they kind of stand tall. Well, mainly Big Rick, because Sexy Star, I mean, she was done, after that flapjack long blower. So there you go. So yeah, good segment, and again, it just gets closer and closer to the resolution of Big Rick versus the crew. So no harm done here.
Absolutely. Okay. So now we had the main event, of course, Alberto El Patron versus Tejano. Not really a big fan of the self disqualification here from Alberto El Patron. Didn't really get super into this match. Obviously, it was an American style match. I will say that. It was a very WWE style match. It didn't really feel like a lucha match at all. But yeah, I mean, it was solid. Alberto El Patron gets himself disqualified, and why bother?
Ashton, here was my thing coming away from this match, right? Because I enjoyed it, actually, and given like the throwout finish, I actually think it made sense because you have Tejano kind of antagonizing Alberto, and there is even one point in this match where he explicitly uses the bull rope against Alberto when he has the referee distracted with the removed turnbuckle pad. So I like this. Pretty much like, you know what? Screw this. You've been antagonizing me. You sullied my debut. You used the object first in this matchup. It's time I get mine. So I can understand that. Really, my big thing wasn't even in the context of this match. It's knowing what we get in the future because I enjoy Tejano's heel work. And honestly, looking back at this match, which again, I seem to have enjoyed more than you did, it just makes me hate all the more that he was babyface even briefly because I just don't buy it. I think it's another Alberto El Patron case. Not as bad because I like Tejano, so it's not like I'm not going to take any stabs at him or anything. But yeah, like I feel like he's so much better as a heel, and I see more possibility for him as a heel than him trying to play babyface. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I enjoyed this match. Just wish Tejano would have gone in a different direction after this. Um, you know.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know, man. This was kind of this whole thing. I think that the Tejano character is probably the least consistent character in Lucha Underground season 1.
Yeah,
Not really a big fan.
because Big Rick, say what you will, when he was face or heel, it always came back to him in some way.
Yeah.
When he was babyface, it was because he wanted vengeance, his personal vengeance for having his eye put out. When he's heel, it's about money and him being financially secure. So there's always a sense of consistency with Big Rick. Tejano didn't have that. He didn't have a consistent voice this season. Because I was even gonna say earlier, like it seemed like a weird season for the likes of the Big Ricks and the Tejanos, but no, I'd almost say that Tejano's by himself here. Because Big Rick, while I may have criticisms of how his season kind of rounded out, given that he did all this cool stuff prior, and then I don't really necessarily like how he finished, though I will say it creates some intrigue for the second season. Tejano was just somebody where he started the season strong when he came in, but then he totally gassed out to the point where I don't even know where you go with him now, to be honest. He's kind of lost, at least to me. So yeah, it's kind of sad when you think about it, but in the context of this match, bringing it all back, I enjoyed it, and Tejano gets the win, which really kind of set up the reason for our return match, which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Ugh.
Everything all right over there, bud?
Yeah, I just had to stretch, man. Just had to stretch.
So after this match, our closing segment was a great way to hype up the next episode because it was King Cuerno in Cueto's office. Cueto tells him he's got a cage match with Mundo next week, and Cuerno says he's going to mount Johnny's head on Cueto's wall.
Yes, I love this. I even said to you in conversation, it doesn't surprise me that he speaks such perfect English because obviously you and I, we knew that already. But he has a great voice. Like
Mhm.
I like the more succinct promo style for pretty much the entire roster with Lucha Underground, save for when they do like a sit down interview with Vampiro. But if they ever wanted Cuerno to speak a little bit more, I don't think I'd mind, But I think there's a certain allure to the character, though, when he does speak less, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think his voice is a great quality. And when he's like, I'm going to mount his head on your wall, I'm like, damn, son. Like, normally I'm all like, oh, yeah, well, do something with Cuerno. I'm like, you know what? We'll see. I respectfully disagree, but we'll see. And then I just kind of back away slowly. So, it's all good, man. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get on to episode 18. We start things off with Pentagon Jr. versus Argenis. I will say this wasn't necessarily your typical Pentagon squash because Argenis got quite a bit of offense here, and I did enjoy that. But obviously, Pentagon does win and break the arm.
Yeah, I love the aggression from Pentagon here. And I mean, come on now, Pentagon and aggression. I know that's a common trait in all of his matches with this particular story, but especially against Argenis because he did some really cool offense here. Like
I
I know at one.
love the drop kick that he does when Argenis wants to go for the handspring move.
Yes. Oh my God, that's a
He
thing
whipped
of
that
beauty.
out versus, I think it was Phoenix in a PWG match at Bola.
It looks so good, dude. It,
Uh,
it looks devastating when
yeah.
Pentagon does it. And the two moves I really enjoyed, he had Argenis in Death Valley driver position, and he drove his head into the turnbuckle, and then he had him in like an inverted Death Valley driver position, and then he drove like his abdomen in there. So like he just beat the crap out of him, and then the drop kick to the head when he was hung up on the ropes, and then yeah, to your point, he breaks the arm, and then he pays tribute to his master, and Pentagon just keeps rolling on, man.
Absolutely. So let's keep rolling on ourselves. Phoenix is in his locker room. Katrina shows up and tells him that Mil Muertes will not stop until he's taken all of Phoenix's 1,000 lives. So Phoenix needs to finish it, and the only way he can do that is to bury Mil Muertes.
And before Phoenix can respond, Katrina's disappeared. So we see her beginning to plant the seeds that she's ultimately going to sow into her master plan later. But yeah, I enjoyed this. Keeps up Katrina's vibe, and it continues the puppeteering of Phoenix. So everything's straightforward here.
Absolutely. And then we got another one of these amazing Conan video packages for his freaking cane. The text is every battle is won before it's even fought. And he straight up says verbally, fall beautifully like a thunderbolt. And then, of course, we see the text Conan, revenge is coming. So this was the one where he was in this amazing rainy scene and he uses the cane to draw like a line in the sand, except it's a line in the puddle. And then we see these like 4 or 5 guys lined up that he's going to end up destroying in the next video package.
Right.
Just so good.
Yeah, man.
All right, so then we see King Cuerno in his truck. We see the little text show up at the bottom of the screen 15 minutes to cage match. And then we see him pull into the parking lot and it says the hunter arrives.
The first time viewing, I didn't really know what to think of this. I just thought, oh, that's cool hype. But you know what? Second time viewing, I really liked it because
I feel
King
like the
Cuerno.
first time viewing, you loved this. I feel like I remember you talking about how cool this was when we first saw it.
Oh, did I? That's interesting. Because yeah, I think, and I probably re-echoed the sentiments I'm about to echo now because I love that he has this hunter gimmick, but it's not entrenched in stereotype. Like you could tell that King Cuerno, I think, still indulges in like modern conveniences from his dress. I mean, we even noted how he wears like this cowboy hat. I mean, you noted that the first viewing with the whole in Cueto's office promo, and then he drives this truck. So he's just like this interesting mishmash of stuff. And yeah, Cuerno, it's just a good time, man. I love it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would agree with you saying that it's not really entrenched in stereotypes though, John, because to me, I mean, he this character is a stereotypical American hunter.
You think with like the 10-gallon hat and riding in the truck and stuff, you mean?
Yeah.
I guess that's a fair point. I guess when I say like stereotype, it's not like he's skulking from place to place or this and that. Like he drives a truck,
So
like
what
it's
you
kind of
basically mean is he's not like trying to play up like the animalistic vibe.
yeah, he's not primitive. That's the
Right.
word. He's not
Yeah,
primitive.
I still, I mean, I agree with that, but I think that the
Right.
whole point of the gimmick isn't that he is literally a lion. It's that he sees himself as the top of the food chain because of the fact that he's a hunter.
Right.
Like he hunts for, like, he's literally that dentist.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
So that's, yeah, and I think that's perfect for a heel gimmick too.
Certainly. Yeah.
There needs
You
to be
know.
more people taking advantage of actual like modern news stories that happen like that.
Definitely. And King Cuerno, I mean, he certainly established that vibe, especially early on. Like, he started the whole feud with Mundo, just to keep the focus on there because the cage matches tonight because he attacked him, when he was in the middle of a match. And he kind of wounded him there. He is an opportunist, and I think he's just a great heel character. So more
Yeah,
power to him.
absolutely. All right. So now we get our second match of the night, which was announced in the episode 17. Angelico versus Ivelisse, Son of Havoc, as the special guest referee. And before we even talk about the match, I just want to say Ivelisse is so damn good in the ring. And every time I see her in the ring, it impresses me. And while simultaneously, it also makes me really depressed that she ended up getting hurt. Because just imagining her as an actual active member of some of the six-man tags that we ended up getting, where Son of Havoc went 3-on-1 and managed to win, and Angelico jumped off things that no one should ever jump off of. I would have loved to see what Ivelisse's role would have been in those tag matches.
Oh my God, yes, dude. Because her whole thing is she's not going to be upstaged by anybody.
Yeah.
And when you see like the crazy stuff that Havoc and Angelico did to keep those belts, I only imagine the sacrifices that Ivelisse would have been willing to make with a healthy body. I will say this much. I share your depression, but I am so thankful that she didn't get benched and she still had a visible role in the team
Yeah.
because she's so good that the only thing worse than not seeing her compete would be not seeing her, period.
At all.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad. I am so glad, and I can't stress that enough, that she maintained that visibility throughout the season because this match just shows why that's so important. She's a great character,
Yeah.
and she's so much fun to watch. And really, all three of these guys, it makes sense to me. Like, normally, you think you put anybody together. I mean, it happens with a lot of tag teams that you want to take seriously as is. Oh, let's throw these two guys together because, well, I mean, let me just be honest here. They're the same ethnicity or they're the same fighting style or whatever, and it'll work. But here, there is a real chemistry, and you can see it just from the antagonistic forces. Havoc with Angelico, Angelico with Ivelisse, Ivelisse with Havoc. Like, everybody's got a problem with everybody.
Yeah, this like the whole story of this match was Angelico came off as really rapey. Ivelisse was just awesome, and Son of Havoc spent most of his time trying to protect Ivelisse.
Exactly. And I think they had some great spots. Sometimes when Ivelisse would have like a pin attempt, Havoc wouldn't count it because it would look inappropriate to him. Times,
Right.
Angelico would go for offense, but Havoc, would try and defend. And then, when he got tired of Ivelisse's stuff, that's when Angelico actually accidentally kicked her in the head. Like, there were a lot of great mishaps on all sides, a lot of great, teases and everything. This was just a really fun matchup, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So up next, Katrina, again in the locker room, tells Mil Muertes that his match with Phoenix next week will have grave consequences, and that Phoenix is going to put Mil in a casket and close the lid.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait to get to grave consequences. But yeah, this is a
Hey,
nice
we already watched it. We just got to get to talking about it.
Exactly, man.
Yeah. So the main event, of course, King Cuerno versus Johnny Mundo cage match. Everybody has already heard my opinion on this match so many times. So, John, I want to know, what do you think about this match?
I really enjoyed it, man. I love that both of these guys that they really like tried having a wrestling match in there. I mean, Johnny Mundo really had no choice because the whole idea of a cage is you're kind of restrained, and he was still able to do some of his aerial stuff in there. Cuerno's psychology is still incredibly on point. That was something that even when I didn't exactly get like why you loved him so much. Like I always appreciated about him. Again, like I said, I've never hated Cuerno, but your fandom was on a different level than mine entirely. And yeah, this match just really exemplifies how masterful he is in the ring. I love the false finishes, like the teases of who's gonna touch the floor. And then, I mean, I'm not even talking about who won, though. Of course, obviously, it's always going to put a smile on my face. But the finish in itself and how perfectly it was executed, I mean, this was an exemplary cage match. This is what a cage match should aspire to be.
Yep.
No teasing, going through the door kind of crap. And see, that's another thing, too, that I should say about this. Compared to WWE cage matches, and I don't want to speak for you, Ashton, but I'm guessing that may have been a reason why you liked it so much. There were no shenanigans here. There were no shenanigans here. There was no excessive teasing. And I feel like when there was teasing, again, as I alluded to, like, maybe Cuerno's feet were going to touch the floor or whatever, it was so perfectly placed at that particular point in the matchup. It never felt excessive. It never felt overdone. It felt like, and I don't say this in a negative way, it felt like this match kind of hit all the appropriate markers when they should have been hit. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, dude.
Yeah, I feel like the whole idea of having a door on the cage that somebody can just walk out of takes away so much credibility from winning a cage match now.
Well, I mean, dude, let me put it in perspective, and I'm not going to try and be so verbose, but here it goes. The whole idea of a cage is that you're imprisoned with the guy that you've had an animosity with for however long your program's been. Imprisonment, you got to, go to certain lengths to free yourself. That's why, honestly, I'm not even the biggest fan of winning by pinfall or submission. I do like when you can only win by escaping over the top, but I've gotten used to it over the years.
See, and I'm the exact opposite. I hate the idea that you can win a match by running away.
But see, I feel like, though, at least when you scale over the top, it's a greater exertion, a greater effort put forth than just walking through the door.
Right,
Because,
but like to me, the purpose of a cage match is to prevent interference and have a clear, decisive winner. And to me, that is done by having the pinfall or submission take place in the cage. That's my thing, is that, like, if you're going to have a cage match, why would it really solve anything if the only way somebody wins the cage match is by running away from the fight?
yeah, you do make a good argument there. Almost makes me wonder if maybe the new standard cage should just come with barbed wire on the top, like we've seen a few times before. This way, it really is only like pinfall or submission. But I don't know. I'm just glad you and I can both agree though about our hatred for just walking through the door. Because to me, that's like, well, why even have the cage match then? If I could walk out as easily as I walked in, what the hell's the point? It makes me think of like great prison films like Shawshank Redemption. You think Andy Dufresne escaped just by walking through the door? No, he had to tunnel for years and years. And even though scaling the cage isn't exactly the same amount of labor and sacrifice, it at least takes a bit more of an exertion than just, the door's open. Oh, let me just walk out. Oh, I'm done. And, that's it. And really, pinfall and submission, I do think I can be cool with when they're done as spectacularly as they were here.
Yeah, and that's what I think I loved so much about this match, was that the finish was just so freaking satisfying. Because to me, like you even brought up WWE, when I see a cage match these days, I mean, you already touched on it. I'm expecting shenanigans, but most of all, I'm not expecting a clean finish. I'm expecting a victory by escape. It's gotten to the point that that's become almost the standard in WWE, and it pisses me off to no end. Do you remember Bray Wyatt versus Chris Jericho? Because I'm pretty sure Wyatt ended up winning that via escape, and it pissed me off then too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to me, like the fact that Mundo was considering escaping, but then he said, nah, man, screw it, you gotta risk it to get the biscuit, and he did the frickin' end of the world, and he won. He connected with the top of the cage move, and he won with it. That is like the ultimate seal of approval from me, because it's so decisive. It's just such a satisfying victory for Mundo.
And can I say, too, on a personal note, and I'm not meaning like, the Mundo mark, I am just so relieved the move hit 100% clean on. Because I
Yeah.
feel like when you get high flyers like a Jeff Hardy, maybe you'll just graze the guy, and then really the
It's
shot.
kind of the point that I think Kurt Angle has done moonsaults off the top of cages about 8 times in his career, and he's missed every one of them.
Exactly. So to see Mundo connect, and not only that, not even graze Cuerno, but full on connect.
Yeah.
That's where the satisfaction comes from for me. Because I'll be honest, this match probably would have been bumped down a few notches had he only connected with his arm or something.
Right.
But knowing that he made full
Or if
body.
he would have done like a freaking Kota Ibushi and did the moonsault, but then he only hits his opponent's arm.
Exactly. Exactly. So knowing that he had full on body contact, I'm like, oh yes, thank you God. Because I'm just like, this match has been so good. Big finish. And this was just my thoughts from the first time viewing. And when he did that, I'm like, yeah, let's go home. That's it. This match is tops. And yeah, Mundo gets the win. Just beautiful.
Absolutely. It was awesome. Okay, so now I think that we can move on to episode 19. I have very few notes for this just because it seems like there weren't really a ton of backstage segments. Match 1 was Aerostar versus Drago in match 3 out of their best of 5 series, which, I mean, if Aerostar would have won their 4th match, it would have been a best of 4 series because that would have been his 3rd win. But yeah, like I just kind of alluded to, Aerostar does win this match, so he goes up in the series 2-1.
Yeah, nice back and forth match. Aerostar ends up winning again with that springboard splash of his. Goes up 1 in the series. You can see a bit more tension, but of course they still shake hands, and the series continues. So there you go.
Absolutely. And then we got another Conan video package playing, I guess, speed chess with Puma, where you have the timer and you only have a certain set amount of time before you start playing, and every turn ticks down on the clock, and you have to hit the thing. And yeah, he talked about how you win by putting yourself in the right position to win, and you only win by believing that you can.
There you go.
So another one of these. This was completely pointless because this didn't even feature the cane.
Well, didn't it though when he smashed the clock of the chess thing to make
Oh
moves?
yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, you're totally right. Yeah. So 3 amazing video packages for a cane. I'm almost impressed at this point.
I almost wish, but then again, I would never want Lucha Underground to sully itself. But now that we're just kind of joking about it the second viewing, I almost wish the Kane would have gotten like a voiceover or something, and they would have been like, yeah, that clock was the warm-up, or something like that.
Dude, that's what I'm saying though, is that like imagine, like I said earlier, if they would have used these video packages for Cage. Like you just have Cage with this badass freaking Evil Ways song playing in the background in this rainy alley getting ready to take on these 5 guys at once, and then they show him playing chess, but he loses, so rather than the cane crashing into the time clock, he just punches it.
Yeah. And then beats the crap out of whoever beat him because bullying's amazing.
And because he's supposed to be like this really dumb monster.
Yeah. It would have been a greater sell than, well, I mean, I love the whole machine thing, but with our artificial intelligence lately, I mean, the keyword being intelligence, Cage really lacked that in his early matches, so yeah. I think that would have been a better sell. Be like, me no like clock, smash. I would have been like, great, let's do it.
Me can't win smart game.
Me play Minesweeper instead.
Minesweeper is even harder to win than chess, for God's sakes.
I know, I can't even win on easy. That's how pathetic I am at Minesweeper.
How about me play Connect 4 instead?
There you go.
Oh my God, this is bad. Okay, so our second match of the night was the Crew versus Big Rick in a no disqualification 3-on-1 handicap elimination match.
Yeah, and, really one by one, Big Rick just eliminates everybody. Last leaving Mr. Cisco, who did the deed to Striker's point.
Sexy Star ended up coming in and trying to help.
Yeah, and she gets her comeuppance, albeit, by feeding Mr. Cisco to Big Rick. So Big Rick really did the damage, right. But Sexy Star was the one who put Mr. Cisco there, so
how ironic that Sexy Star was telling Dario Cueto earlier about how she hates having all these men coming out to try and save her, and then she comes out to save Rick.
Yeah, there you go.
Frickin' A, man.
That circle, though. And then, Big Rick nailing the Uranagi right through the chair, which is still a magnificent spot. I still really appreciate that. And he pins Mr. Zizgo, and thus ends the babyface run of Avenger Big Rick.
No, I feel like he stays babyface just long enough until they debut the family.
You know what? I think you might be right about that. But yeah, this was good. Big Rick gets his comeuppance. Can't really complain. Again, this is another like ABC kind of storyline, and I say that with all the flattery in the world because we need more of these in
You
wrestling.
know
And
what
that's
I love so much about Lucha Underground though, and you just said this is like an ABC kind of story, but that you know what? I don't know if this is how you meant it, but what I love so much about Lucha Underground is they use these stories to set up certain payoffs that you really just need to see. And
yeah,
they'll go one of two ways with it. They'll either give it to you, in which case, oh, that was amazing, I wanted that, and they gave it to me, or they'll withhold it from you. But in the process of withholding some of these payoffs, they give us even more to want, and we know because they're so good at what they do that eventually we'll get a payoff, and the longer we have to wait for it, the better it's going to be.
yeah. Lucha Underground's gotten so good that I would like to see a fan get mouthy and be like, "Oh, Lucha Underground, that's not what I wanted," and they're just like, "You'll take what we give you." Okay, okay, okay. I'll wait. And just like, because they're just so good, they're gonna get around everything they want to do anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. With WWE, I feel like because so often they miss rather than hit, it makes me more irritated when I don't get certain payoffs.
Well, like
But when
WWE just drops entire storylines at a time.
exactly.
And like the thing is, like, there are so many different things with WWE that they stray away from this formula of make the fans want something and then either give it to them or withhold it, but it's still eventually end up giving them what they want. And the WWE, like, they first of all, the WWE is really struggling to write storylines that make you want to see something happen.
Right.
Like, you
You
look
know?
at this whole Dolph Ziggler, Lana, Rusev, Summer Rae thing. Like, to
Oh,
me,
God.
I personally think that the ideal outcome for this is for Ziggler to turn heel, join forces with Summer, and Rusev and Lana to go their separate ways. But I would put money on that not happening.
Yeah, like first of all, this whole story, Lana, Rusev, Ziggler, and
You know, it's
Summer Rae.
actually kind of funny that I said earlier that they dropped storylines because of the whole Bella thing where they hated each other and then all of a sudden they just didn't. If there was ever a storyline in the WWE that I would actually be okay with them just deciding to drop, it's this one.
Yes, I hate it so much. So much. I feel like the whole relationship tension between Evil East, Son of Havoc, and Angelico was done 2 trillion times better than this
Yeah.
crap. Mainly because, and here's the kicker, not only do you have a strong female character emerge with Evil East, which we'll get to in a little bit.
Just to kind of emphasize that, sure, she was angry that Son of Havoc broke up with her, but what did she do afterwards? In the WWE, she would have made out with Angelico, but no, she's a single woman now and she's strong and she don't need no man.
Exactly. And not only that, you have Son of Havoc kind of make this ascent, which again we'll get into more details later. In this storyline with Rusev, Ziggler, and everybody, I feel like Rusev's wasting his time. I feel like Ziggler's just become boring to me. I don't know if you saw my comment on Tweetov, Ashton, but I was talking about this story with Abel and a few of our friends, and I just said I look forward to the day when Dolph goes heel again and Rusev can have a feud with a babyface Seth Rollins. Because that's just where I feel like all of their potential is maximized. And as far as the women
Yeah.
go, I know Lana's training, so I'm not going to come down hard on her. Summer, I can't even really blame her because I'm willing to bet that her promos are scripted. I feel like she does well as a valet in terms of like her appearance and her mannerisms and her body language, all that stuff. So I don't even want to come down hard on her. This is just bad for everybody. Like that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah,
And
but like the greater kind of point that I'm trying to make is that the WWE in this instance hasn't they're giving us this storyline, but there's no obvious payoff that we really want to see.
exactly.
Like you would
Yeah.
think maybe like I don't know, maybe like Lana slapping Rusev, but she's already done that so many times that there's no real payoff there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess that they might be trying to get us to want to see Ziggler beat Rusev, but I feel like he's already done that before too, and even if he hasn't, I don't care.
And see, that's another difference too. Like you see the storyline that we're talking about now. I feel like they've gone all over the lot with Lucha Underground with the whole Evilise Havoc on Helico story that I was mentioning earlier. If you go back like from episode 1 and you let it build and you've been following this series, they have been
Tonight
very
was the
clear
payoff.
yeah, this was the payoff tonight. And you see like them following the roadmap, nothing convoluted, just going point to point. And the payoff for every character really, except maybe on Helico at the time, but I think he still gets his in the end, is just completely worthwhile. Whereas, in the former story, it's like, man, I don't even care anymore. Just end it. And that's the difference. Like Lucha Underground, they may not always give you the payoff that you want, but they're going to give you a payoff that's more worthwhile than anything you see in WWE, guaranteed.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and really, like, I really do think that the whole problem with the WWE is that they just don't know how to make people want what they want people to want anymore, whereas Lucha Underground does it with expertise.
Exactly. Well, they've changed the game. I've even said, and I know you kind of co-signed with me, in their first time viewing in our 12-hour reviews, Lucha Underground has completely changed the game. And I think the more people that come around to Lucha Underground's way of doing things, the more WWE is going to be in hot water because they have such an amazing roster. But the complacency is so apparent. I mean, come on, Ashton. When you've got talented people like Rusev, Ziggler, and I'll even say Lana and Summer have their own talents that are worthwhile in this storyline, and you do a TMZ spoof,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? Like
It's so funny too because you think about Roman Reigns and how badly the WWE screwed the pooch on him. If the Roman Reigns build to WrestleMania isn't proof enough that the WWE has no idea what modern fans want from their wrestling shows, I don't know what is.
well, I mean, let's do a side by side comparison, right? Roman Reigns faced Brock Lesnar at the last WrestleMania, right?
Right?
The last show they did tug of war with the belt. Prince Puma versus Mil Muertes Ultima Lucha, last show before part 2, he lays out everybody, Prince Puma, and he looks like a freaking boss in there. That's the difference.
And
Like,
even if you just want to talk about kind of building somebody from the ground up into a potential star, I think Son of Havoc is a better example of that even.
oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yeah, because there's effort there. I don't see effort in like the undercard storylines. It's always concentrated in the main event, and that's not to say people don't get it conflated with they
Well,
always hit it with.
Reigns was the main event though.
And that was my point because I was even getting ready to say that doesn't always even mean that it's a hit with the main event either.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because yeah, and that's why I even said like don't get it conflated because that's not necessarily true either. I just feel like when there's effort, sometimes they just don't get it, and then at times when I feel like there could be something, there's just no effort. It's like WWE, they just can never get both shoes on the right feet, so to speak, and it just really makes me like we've been saying Netflix needs Lucha. You're damn right. And I think it's more than just Netflix. We need Lucha. I mean, come on, people. It's one of the best products out there, and I can't wait for season 2 after this discussion. So
Yep.
let's freaking get there.
Absolutely. So you know what though? That I know that what I said tonight was the blow off for the whole Angelico Evil East thing, but we're not quite there yet because we still have to finish episode 19, which finished with grave consequences. Now, John, I know you really want to talk about this, and I want you to, but I'm gonna hold back because anybody that wants to know what we thought about this match, that wants to hear more of a lengthy discussion on it, go back and find our episode 19 Lucha Underground Twitwow review because we went in depth on that.
We did. And you know what? I'm going to concur with you, Ashton. I want to keep it succinct as well. I mean, I just want to touch on again, this is the first Lucha Underground matchup to make my match of the year list. And I think the biggest point I want to make had a great atmosphere, laid the groundwork beautifully leading up to this match. And I think as far as the match itself, it comes back to one thing, really. I love the innovation with the casket. I love
Yeah.
that there wasn't really a tease with the casket until the end. And I loved how the casket played a crucial role in quite a few spots. So I love the violence of this thing. I just love this match. So I concur with Ashton. I mean, go back and listen to our Twitter review because we really give a more in-depth analysis. But guys, this is the best casket match I've ever seen. And it may be the best casket match I ever will see for quite some time.
I think
Because,
that this is the best match that took place on American soil of 2015 so far.
yeah, yeah.
Because
And
every single other one of my match of the year that I have above this candidates are New
right.
Japan.
But I mean, what does it say that these two guys have this crazy story left and right? We don't know where they're going. And I mean that in a good way, because it's just like you don't know where Katrina's loyalties lie, this, that, and the other. And they go out and they do this.
And
This
then
is,
freaking
yeah.
Katrina helps to put Mill in the casket and puts the rock in there and everything. Like she freaking licked the rock.
Yeah.
And then she threw it in there to Mill and shut the casket herself. So she was really the one that did the deed.
And Ashton, this goes back to what you were just saying in the preceding segment. This is Lucha Underground recognizing that it knows what its audience wants. Because really, even though the story has a lot of supernatural elements, the story at its heart, well, at least one of the themes going on here, is that a man stepped up and stole another man's woman. And Mil Muertes doesn't like that. So what happens when you know you're appealing to, like, you know, the adult male wrestling fan that loves the violence? You beat the shit out of the guy. And they got that, because even though Phoenix is the babyface, I'm not trying to take anything away from Phoenix, he got whooped here.
He did.
He got a beating. And that's just it. Like, in WWE, and I'm sorry, but I just gotta be honest, I feel like you'd see, oh, well, maybe a couple of corny one-liners about, oh, well, the woman didn't mean anything to me, insert sexually degrading joke here or something. No, here, Katrina isn't really all that affected, because Mil Muertes is like, well, Phoenix, you're the one that put the moves on her, so I'm just gonna beat the crap out of you. And he does, and it's good. It's really freaking good. And I gotta say this too, Phoenix's celebration, I loved how he sold winning this match. Because it's like it was written all over his face, oh my god, I lived. Oh my god, I'm alive. And like, everything about this match was masterful. Again, if you want a really detailed analysis, go back to our TwitWow episode of it, Lucha Underground episode 19. But yeah, this is my match of the year for a reason, and it still holds up after a second viewing. So that's all.
Is this your legit match of the year, or is it just a candidate?
It's just a candidate right now, because I know
Yeah.
we're still a few months away from doing our year-end
I
awards.
feel like we need to, at this point, like, I feel like we need to split up our match of the year category into 3 different categories. Just the overall match of the year, the North American match of the year, and then the WWE match of the year. Because for me, like, I would have frickin' Ishii Goto as the all-over match of the year. I would have Grave Consequences as the North American match of the year, and then I would have the Rumble Triple Threat as the WWE match of the year.
Yeah. I mean, dude, this Grave Consequences
And
match.
actually, I wouldn't even have Grave Consequences as my North American match of the year. My North American match of the year would be frickin' Puma Muertes from Ultima Lucha.
And see, I feel like this match, for me personally, beat it by a good margin. I think for me, again, it comes back to like things like the innovation with the casket. And
Oh,
things
I
like
loved the innovation with the cat. And like Phoenix running around with half of his mask falling off. Like, I loved that. But when I think back to us watching Ultima Lucha Part 2 and that frickin' Puma versus Muertes match, man, I don't think anything has topped it.
But see, I love that we're really having a debate about matches that took place within Lucha Underground. I'm telling you guys, they're clicking on all
And what's
cylinders.
crazy is that I guarantee you that there are going to be people that disagree with both of us because they think that Vampiro Pentagon should be match of the year.
I know, right? Which is cool. I mean, you know, I love a good dialogue, but it just shows you this first season.
And honestly, I would probably put Vampiro Pentagon above Grave Consequences. And that's not even me trying to take a shot at Grave Consequences. I freaking loved this match. It's just that Lucha Underground has produced so many great matches that it's hard to say one's better than the others.
I mean, like, let me just put it to you guys this way, and I think this should say everything because you guys heard the live reactions. If I'm looking at it objectively, I'd even have to put Grave Consequences above All Night Long because I freaking loved All Night Long.
Wow.
But this match, again...
I mean, I guess I can see your logic because how often do you get to say that a match was the best match of its type ever?
Exactly.
And this was, without a doubt, the single best casket match that I've ever seen.
And ditto. And that's just why I've never seen a casket match done like this.
Yeah.
And it just... And see, here's the thing.
Maybe I would say this was the most innovative match of the year.
I would agree with that. And it's funny because you kind of made the point I was about to make because early on in this series, Ashton, you had a really great line where you said, watch the first 3 episodes of Lucha Underground and you'll see whether you're sucked in or not.
Yeah.
For me, this match, particularly of episode 19, this really illustrates how innovative Lucha Underground is and how distinct it is from its peers. Because I watched this and I'm like, you would never get a casket match like this in WWE. And if you think you would...
Even if you go back to the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like even back in the Attitude Era, they had casket matches and they were violent, but they were never this creative.
They were never, and that's just it, Ashton. You can do violence, but how do you present that violence is, I think, how you're going to
Yeah.
set yourself apart.
Yeah, because like back in the Attitude Era, when they had the casket matches that they had, they were always like the casket was always just like it was almost just a piece of the set.
Yeah, it was like stationary in this one
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And
Whereas
you would,
within
yeah.
this, the casket became part of the match.
And I freaking love that. Like, it's in the corner, and Muertes tosses causes a dent in the casket, which was amazing imagery. And you want to talk about imagery?
Yes.
You talked about, like, Phoenix with half his mask torn off.
Yeah.
I think I said in the original review that this match was art. And having this conversation again, I have to re-echo that sentiment. It's not often that I call a wrestling match art. I may have only ever done it one other time, and that was with
Well, I mean,
Angle
to me,
Benoit.
pro wrestling in general is art.
I would agree with that, but
I
I
think
feel
maybe you
like,
just mean this is art done well.
yeah, and you could say that. I feel like, of course, because of course there's going to be a difference in between good art and bad art in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
This was art to me at its best, and it's beautiful because, like I said, I think I've only ever, speaking for me personally,
Would
said
you
this
say
one.
maybe that this was pro wrestling in its most artistic form?
Yes. Yes, I would. Because I feel like when you have violence, an emotional story, and even if you don't want to say emotional, you certainly have to say riveting given the people involved. And you have innovation with a freaking casket.
What does this
This
say, though, about the state of blood in wrestling today?
You know what? It's funny, Ashton, because I try not to get involved in that debate because I don't want to necessarily say that it's a minefield, but you have a lot of voices in it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always somebody that always, I never want to encourage pro wrestlers to, bleed.
Right.
But when you look at Lucha Underground, three of the four best matches that they put out this year had color in them.
Yeah.
You look at Vampiro Pentagon, Grave Consequences, and of course, All Night Long. All three of those matches, and obviously the fourth one that I'm referring to is Puma Muertes. You don't necessarily think that's on the same level. I don't, I'm not going to try and argue that here. But
Right.
those three matches all had color in them, and the bleeding helped with the story.
I feel like focusing specifically on Grave Consequences because that's what we're reviewing at the moment.
Yeah.
I felt like the blood was incredibly well played. And here's the thing too, given who's involved, I feel like this would have been one of the few times that I was angry that there was no blood because you're talking it's a
Yeah.
behemoth like Mil Muertes and you stole his girlfriend, his controller, like obviously he's gonna want to freaking kill you. I feel like he'd have mercy on you if he didn't taste your blood. And that was another great image too, was when Mil Muertes was kind of licking his lips or licking the thing that he bashed Phoenix with and tasting the blood. I'm like, holy fuck. Like everything these guys did was amazing. And you ask me about the state of blood in pro wrestling, I feel like a lot of fans, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I feel like they want blood solely for blood's sake. And
Yeah.
I can appreciate that too because I've been there, so I'm certainly no saint. But
Really?
but yeah, well, I mean, especially when you're younger. Like I remember, the whole Randy Orton Cactus Jack feud. Like I just wanted Randy Orton to be opened up like a pincushion, because I'm just like, yeah, really into that feud. But the blood here, I think, really told the greater story. Like, oh my God, this really is grave consequences. I'm suffering the consequences of meddling with death, and I've
Yeah.
got to kill death if I want to live. Because
Yeah.
again, the way that Phoenix sold it, when he's got the blood dripping down his face and have the mask torn off, it's like, oh my God, I didn't win, I survived.
Yeah.
And I feel like blood here added to the greater aesthetic, the greater imagery of the match, especially the post match, given Phoenix just collapsing and just thinking, I've lived to see another day.
Yeah.
So, dude, I mean, you've just heard me ramble on again. I apologize. I said I wasn't going to do it, but I freaking love this match.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think that my sort of official stance on blood is that I don't encourage the workers to do it,
Right.
but I also don't think that the actual promoter or promotions should be afraid of it.
No,
Because like it really all comes down to the situation. Because like in WWE, just random instances of people, blading for no reason, like it was back in the Attitude Era, like freaking, and even before the Attitude Era with freaking Ric Flair and WCW bleeding in every other match. I'm not a fan of that. but when you have blood in matches that call for it, and I think that that's the fine line between like what I was just talking about with like the Attitude Era and WCW and that kind of stuff, and current WWE, where like in current WWE, the only way you get blood is if someone gets busted open the hard way. And that, I mean, it makes it mean a little bit more, but that can also happen by accident in a match that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Whereas I feel like Lucha Underground, when some of the best matches of the year had blood in them, I don't think that you can just kind of overlook that.
Right.
I think that means something. I think that the blood enhanced those matches.
And I feel like, they're always, and I love that they let the matches continue.
Right.
And like,
They
that's
don't,
another thing
yeah,
too.
the referee doesn't put on freaking latex gloves.
Yeah, it just
Like that alone in WWE annoys the crap out of me. Just seeing the referee walk around looking like he's trying to reach for a wrestler with these latex gloves on, like, let the freaking wrestlers work.
And my final point on this particular commentary on blood, I feel like given a venue like Lucha Underground, the mythos of Lucha Underground almost necessitates blood to me.
Yeah.
Because Dario Cueto says, I love violence. Well, what is the embodiment of violence? Bloodshed.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
definitely.
Yeah.
That's a great kind of final thought. Let's finish things off, though. Episode 20, the double championship episode. But before we get to the championship matches, we get Son of Havoc versus Angelico. And this is the one where Son of Havoc breaks up with Ivelisse.
And it's glorious. Angelico gets straddled on the ropes at one point, so he's just down. Son of Havoc's perched. He calls for a mic, and he's like, I realize why I've been losing all of my matches. And it's important to note that Vampiro was just saying all throughout the match, oh, Ivelisse, she's naggy. Why would Son of Havoc have her at ringside? He even comes out and said,
listen to her voice, man. He's like talking about how I gotta get my headphones on.
And I think he even comes out at one point and says like she's holding him back. And yeah, Son of Havoc pretty much reiterates that point. He says, you've been holding me back. Ivelisse, consider yourself dumped. Drops the mic, shooting star press, and we all go home happy.
I love what happened here. I feel like the dialogue could have been a little bit better though.
You know what? I feel like the
consider yourself dumped just comes off as super cheesy and uncharacteristic for Son of Havoc.
I don't know, because I've always considered Son of Havoc. I don't necessarily want to use the word goofier, but I remember one of the first promos he cut on Sexy Star, which still gets me giggling for whatever reason when I think about it. Before you go getting all excited, I'm not wrestling a woman.
I think it's the voice changer that they use for him, because that's not his real voice.
Right.
I think that's what makes it come off as sort of comical. But like even just a simple rewording, like rather than consider yourself dumped, he could have said, you and I are over, or consider us broken up, or something like that. But I don't think I've ever, like, if you break up with somebody, you don't, and even if you're super angry at them, you don't say consider yourself dumped. Like that's just not how people talk. You would say,
I don't know. I
mean, maybe like consider us broken up. Or it's over, I think, is the most common one that I would hear used.
I don't know. I feel like when I see it, it's pretty much Son of Havoc being like, this is on you. And then he just wins. And you know what? Like, you and I laughing and having a great time really illuminates to me the idea, just looking back at this first season, how much I loved Son of Havoc just as a performer. Because here's the thing. I just remember the conversation you had. I don't know if it was with me or on Puitov, but you made the point that sometimes wrestling fans confuse comedy wrestlers with wrestlers who do comedy. I would consider
that was definitely on TwitWow.
Yeah, I would consider Son of Havoc to be of the latter variety.
Yeah.
But that's all the more reason why I'm okay whenever Lucha Underground is ready to give him that big push to the moon, because he is gold. Freaking
I feel like
gold.
He's a more serious version of Lucha Underground's version of Eric Young.
Yeah, definitely.
That's kind of what he comes off as to me. Like, he's obviously not as goofy as Eric Young has been in the past, because Eric Young, like, the whole Super Eric thing and some of the stuff that he's done is just way further out in the comedy direction. But I feel like Son of Havoc is like the Lucha Underground equivalent to TNA's serious version of Eric Young.
Yeah, and I would agree with that assessment wholeheartedly, and it just works so
Yeah,
well.
it does.
I mean, guys, if you listen to our Twitter reviews, the first time viewing, we had a lot of in-depth conversations and a lot of praise heaped on Son of Havoc, and I just think back to his promos, and I laugh and I smile, and I think that's the
And I think
goal.
the biggest difference between Son of Havoc and Eric Young is that Son of Havoc is being properly built for a world title run.
Oh my God,
Whereas, like
yes.
with Eric Young, it was just like, wait, Daniel Bryan is their champion? We have to get a short guy with a beard with the championship.
Oh my God, I hate TNA so much.
It's so bad.
And then I love too the
And then
imagery.
Hernandez went there while he was still under contract with Lucha Underground.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at
And
all.
they
That
didn't even
yeah,
have the wherewithal to check to see if he had a no compete clause in his contract.
oh my God.
They
Uh,
say LOL TNA for a reason, people. It's awful.
but just to kind of round out the review of this match, I also love the imagery.
There are a few bridges that I will not burn, but TNA can suck a fat one.
Yeah, absolutely. But just to kind of round out this match, I really love the imagery of Son of Havoc celebrating among the people while Evilise is left out in the cold, like alone in the ring. Because
Yeah.
Angelico's like, well, hey, it's warm over here, and then she's like, no, and then she kicks him in the head. So yeah,
I
Havoc and
love that though, because like I said earlier, if this was WWE, she would have made out with Angelico on the spot to try and make Son of Havoc jealous.
exactly. Because that's female empowerment, right? We got a revolution, right, guys?
Maybe if we say revolution enough, Michael, it'll really happen.
Just like nah, Margle. Oh my God. But yeah, this
We annoyed ourselves by impersonating JBL.
that's a known side effect. But yeah, this is a fun matchup. I have nothing more to say than that.
All right, well then we get our two big championship matches: Tejano versus Alberto El Patron in a bull rope match, and Cage versus Prince Puma in what ended up being a Boyle Heights street fight.
Yeah, as far as the bull rope match goes, really not a lot to say. I appreciated some of the spots
This
between
match
these.
actually annoyed me
Did it now?
because Alberto kicked out of literally everything.
I know, Alberto El bitch bag. But
And
yeah.
then he gets freaking Tejano in the rope hung armbar, and Tejano taps like somebody's literally breaking a bone.
You know who didn't tap when they got caught in that spot? Johnny Mundo.
That's right.
That's right. Of course I did. But yeah, I think that's the only thing in all seriousness, Ashton, that kind of bothered me on this match in both the first and second viewing. I really didn't care for the finish. Like I guess in a way it was
I
clever
mean, I'm
because
not trying to say that like it made Tejano look super weak or anything, but the fact that you have El Patron go through everything that he went through, and then just a simple rope hung armbar gets Tejano to tap like it's nothing.
well, yeah, and I'm with you there. I don't think I liked the suddenness of it. I do think I have to give a few points for like cleverness because it is no DQ and oh that's smart. Use your environment, get the submission win. But at the same time I almost feel like that's more of a heel tactic too,
It
which is
is.
kind of why I can't really buy Alberto Patron as a babyface because if he had gotten that cross arm breaker dead center of the ring and maybe used the bull rope, I don't know, as kind of leverage or something or did something with it, then I'd be
Choke
like
him
okay,
out with it.
choke him out with it even, whatever. Like, I'd be like, cool, but you catch him in a rope hung version where in a regular matchup that would have had to have been broken on 5, but you get the convenience because it's no DQ. I don't know. Like, I'm just like Tejano on the other hand. Really, when you look at the offense Tejano tried to nail, he tried to beat Alberto kind of straight up while still in the context of the rules. I mean, even
Yeah,
powerbombed him through a table.
yeah, like that. I thought that was like, and even in my second viewing, knowing that Alberto El Patron is still the AAA champion, I still was like, oh my god, that's got to be it. Why didn't I remember this?
Exactly. So yeah, not a bad match, but I certainly get where you're coming from with just the annoyed factor.
Absolutely. So then we get into Cage Puma and another sort of annoying finish here with freaking Cage having the match won and then just proceeding to be an idiot and beat the crap out of Puma without trying to get the pin.
Yeah, he calls out Hernandez, who, just to kind of wrap everything up in a neat little bow. He had a segment with Cueto, I think, to start this episode, if I'm not mistaken.
It was actually after. It was after Angelico and Son of Havoc's match, but yeah.
Okay. And then he has the segment with Conan and Prince Puma. So Hernandez is kind of getting introduced into the fold. So then Cage is like, oh well, I seem to have the title one, but rather than just going for the pin, I'm just gonna pick a fight with everybody. How about you, Hernandez? You just showed up. And then he's like, oh, you want to start something? And then that looks like it's gonna be something. But who did want to pick a fight with Cage? Conan's Kane. And just clocks him right in the neck.
Conan's Kane is its own character at this point.
Exactly. It's like, I'm taking my push. Bam, right in the neck. Cage crumples down. And I guess that makes the second vignette from Conan where he said verbally fall. I like something. I forget what you said in the review.
Fall beautifully like a thunderbolt.
Fall beautifully like a thunderbolt. Well, I don't know if he fell beautifully like a thunderbolt, but he crumpled. So I guess that's good enough.
He collapsed like Randy Orton receiving a GTS.
That's so true. He does do that. But then Puma goes to the top rope. He hits the 630 and he retains. So you might as well give a Lucha Underground Championship to the Kane as well because it really set everything else up. In all seriousness.
So all this build up for this Kane. And even though it's kind of stupid that they put this much emphasis on the Kane in the first place, the Kane still gets its payoff, man.
Exactly. Hey, you know what? I have to give respect at least, because even though we think it's stupid, at least Lucha Underground sees their visions through to the end. They don't wuss out and drop storylines.
That's right.
Because even if WWE was cringing and thinking, wow, this payoff between Marcus Louis and Tyler Breeze is going to be really stupid, isn't it? Why don't we just not do it? No, even if it's a misfire, Lucha Underground says, you know what, guys? We start our stories, we finish our stories because we know you're smarter than that.
Is there anything about Marcus Louis that isn't cringeworthy?
No, he's just...
I love how slight that pause was before you said no.
Yeah,
you knew you were going to say no, but then you very briefly considered other options, and then you're just like, no, screw that. The answer's no, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you indulge for a brief moment the fantasy of buying a timeshare, and then you just realize what a sack of shit it would be, so then you're like, no, I'll sink my money elsewhere. And this matchup, though, despite, again, the teasing that we had, it was a fun match. Yeah. I enjoyed it. These guys have great chemistry. If they'd ever
Cage hit Weapon X and everything, but then
I know
he just went for the mounted punches like a retard.
I know. It's like you're pressing B button repeatedly on the controller when the boss fight was already won. Like, dude, it's over.
There's a difference between beating a dead horse and beating a dead puma, and this just cost him the title.
Exactly. You have no one but yourself to blame, Cage, is pretty much the lesson here.
I'll go vote for Donald Trump in Mexico.
Oh my god. I enjoyed the spot where he kind of powerbombed Prince Puma on the steel post. Yeah. That was pretty cool. So they did a lot of cool stuff here, but he says, man, that Weapon X, the lack of follow-up, and then the cane.
Wrapping the chair around his chest and slamming that into the steel post.
Oh my god. And see, that brings up another nitpick I have of this match, because look, I did love this match. I'm not backing away from that. But Puma was beat. You're telling me you didn't have a contingency plan for this? Your contingency plan was the idea you were capitalizing on Cage being a dumb oaf. Because they didn't do anything. This was all Cage's doing. They just capitalized on Cage's doing. Yeah. There's a difference. They didn't put anything in motion. Cage set the table. I don't know, man. Again, kudos to Lucha.
I can only imagine what Conan was thinking. Oh no, Puma's going to lose the title. Wait, he's not pinning him? Oh, I mean, that looks like it hurts, but at least he's not going to win.
Exactly. Oh, man, it's I think Conan was just saying, man, I got this cane all prepped for nothing. And then when he sees Cage being a dumbass, he's like, oh my god, it's showtime. And then, big finish, cane to the neck.
And I love, too, that he waited for Cage to turn around to hit him with it.
It's like dramatic pause, dramatic draws, dramatic pause, strike! And then he goes to the back, he's like, I did so good out there.
Are you happy, Puma? Because if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be champion anymore. What are you talking about? He didn't even try and pin me. Yeah. But we all know it's because of me.
And then, if I could just control myself for 2 seconds, and then you'd get Emperor Van Palpatine. being like, you see, Matt, I told you that snake Conan wasn't good for Puma, always taking the credit for himself.
Yeah, Emperor Van Palpatine with Pentagon Kenobi.
I'm not even the biggest Star Wars fan, and I'm dying over here. Oh my god, it hurts.
Oh,
Um,
man.
but yeah, like, that was totally the conversation they had too. Like, what did I tell you, Puma? And it's like, well, he didn't win yet, but he was going to if it wasn't for the cane. Thank goodness I got this reinforced. It's just like he lives somewhere. I don't know.
It might not have done the job if I didn't temper it either.
Yeah.
You
If
saw
I
me
didn't.
tempering it, right?
Yeah.
Like heating it up and then dipping it in cold water and all the steam comes off of it. Like,
Right.
the amount of effort, man, that went into those freaking video packages and making that damn rod.
And it's so funny that you said it might not have done the job because if he hadn't tempered it. Well, if he hadn't tempered it, Puma would have certainly done the job. So I guess it all worked out as it should have. I don't know.
God. All right, I think we're done.
I think so too.
Oh man. Well, I guess that Emperor Van Palpatine is now a thing. Pentagon Kenobi.
I've got to build up an immunity, but it's gonna take a while.
We'll get to that at the end of the season, though, with Ultima Lucha and Ultima Lucha Part 2.
Oh my god, I don't even know if my body is ready, but...
All right, guys. Well, we managed to keep it under an hour 20 this time. Seems like we're kind of averaging 15 to 20 minutes per episode that we discuss, which is a hell of a lot better than the hour plus that it takes us to normally discuss them during 12-hour reviews. So, that being said, remember to tweet out hashtag Netflix needs Lucha. Remember to contact Netflix and tell them that if they pick up Lucha Underground that you would buy a subscription. It's only $7.99 a month as opposed to $9.99 a month. And of course, remember to stay tuned for if you watch us for everything, our NXT review later on tonight, or if you just watch us for Lucha, episode 6 of Lucha Rewatch next week, where we will be watching episodes 21 through 24 of Lucha Underground Season 1. We'll see you guys for whichever one of those things that you want to watch, and we'll see you then.